welcome to the Influent Network. I am Dr. John Scott, and this is my podcast. I'm the host of Beyond the White Coat. I have a very, very special guest tonight, a very good close friend of mine, Dr. Jeff Plagenhoef. And the whole setting tonight we're going to talk about is mentorship. I've had 3 mentors in my life, and Jeff is one of them. And who a mentor is someone that believes in you when you don't believe in yourself. And I'm going to brag a little bit about Dr. Plagenhoef. Is it okay if I call you Jeff, sir?
Please do.
Okay, Jeff. Jeff is a former president of the American Society of Anesthesiology, has many, many accolades. And I'm honored to have him here tonight because it's all about passing forward. So the theme for tonight is mentorship. Jeff and I talked about this in detail, and he's the one that gave me my chance and really has helped me to move forward in our society, American Society of Anesthesiology. Jeff, if you wouldn't mind, please tell us a little bit about your background, where you're from, why you went into medicine, on and on. All right. Thank you, Jeff. Take it off.
Sure. I'm going to give a little bit more background than maybe seems right, but it really does play into who I am and into my whole story. So although I was a son of a family practice physician and a stepson of a dentist, I ended up on my own at 18. I didn't whine or cry or fuss about that. I just knew that I had to put myself through school. So I waited tables for 10 years, working all the way through undergrad and med school, and chose anesthesiology as a residency. And things that people told me early on always stuck with me. My father always said, if the Plagenhoef name goes on it, it better damn well be done right and to the best of my ability. It doesn't matter if I'm the best. It matters that I did my best with what I had. I had my chairman at UAB said he didn't care if he had to give us a slide rule to learn. If we wanted a slide rule to learn anesthesia, he'd get it, but we better learn how to teach ourselves and be lifelong students. Several things over and over. And I got chances and help along the way that made me, at a very young age, believe in mentorship. Mentorship is just extended fatherhood. And I take it very, very seriously. I'm very proud to say my children, who are all in their early 30s, are already mentoring people in their fields. So mentorship's hugely important. Got involved in anesthesia, though. John asked me to talk about that. And I have a saying that's it's kind of funny. My kids have used it in job interviews and gotten chuckles out of people. When they were younger, they never ever got to complain about much. And if they complained that somebody was better than them in any way, I would tell them that I was sorry that they were a Plagenhoef and they had to exploit their averageness. Now, it sounds a little bit smart alecky, but what that means is God gave us all gifts and talents. You got to find out what they are, what your passions are, and you got to work hard. Hard work beats God-given talent almost always. So whether it was sports or schoolwork, that's a principle that I believe in. If you work hard, and another guy, one of my mentors in my first professional job after residency, he just said, show up with your teeth brushed, smile, and do what you're supposed to do. I changed that in a talk that I give on professional citizenship to always do more than your fair share. If you do more than your fair share with the gifts God gave you, God smiles upon you and your pillow sleeps well at night. When you're taking care of patients, I'm sure you already heard it, but really take it sincerely that you're going to treat everybody as though they were your family member. It's another human being. You have to respect them, and you never know who it is you're treating. Don't ever judge people based upon how they appear. I've been shocked to find out the background of some people. To this day, even, I'll prejudge. I think we all do it. And as every year goes by, I realize how foolish it is to do that. Got many great stories about that, but this isn't the time or place. John, I'm going to let you ask another question. That's basically where I came from. I got into anesthesiology, worked hard, and didn't complain. And I can give a lot of my advice that I give to young med students and residents, if that's what you want me to do next.
Well, let's pause a minute and talk about you being the president of the American Society of Anesthesiology. One of my themes I always do is talk about advocacy. Well, why do that? Why did you want to do this? What made you pass that road? And
Okay.
tell us.
So the answer to that ties to mentorship. Ralph Fillmore was my mentor in my first practice, and when I give talks on advocacy, and I've given hundreds, as you know, I like to point out to everybody really that not very many people ever learn about advocacy in college or professional school or residency. It's just not taught. I tried to make it part of standard curriculum through changes in the ASA. But anyway, I was brought up right after residency. That was my first exposure to advocacy, going to a few meetings, and I got involved in the Medical Association of the State of Alabama in, I think, 3 years out of residency. And it was amazing to me how quickly you could shine if you showed up and actually tried to do something rather than just warm a chair. But all the most important decisions that impact healthcare are not made in labs or ORs or offices. They're made in the state capitals and our nation's capital. And the only way to impact those decisions is to have your view, position, need, and your patients carried to the capitals, to the people who are simply not educated in what it is they need to be educated in, but they're going to be voting on it. So if you don't go to your state capital and the nation's capital and appeal your case, you can expect the opposing side will beat you every time. It's a mandatory, necessary part of a responsible professional life. I also like to say, and did say all over the country when I was an ASA officer, that as an officer of the ASA, I didn't have one iota more responsibility to advocate and execute the mission statement of the ASA, which is to advance the specialty and secure the future. Upon graduation from medical school, every medical graduate has the same inherent responsibility to do that. And upon completion of residency, everybody has the same responsibility to do that. The difference between leaders and everybody else is that the leaders have accepted to take on more than their fair share of the workload and responsibility. It's not that they possess it inherently. If you don't want to show up, you need to at least support advocacy by supporting political action committees, because whether you like it or not, political contributions are the volume control switch on a politician's hearing aid. It is impossible to stay in state office or federal office without financial support, because it costs a tremendous amount of money to go through a campaign. So contributions make a difference. It doesn't buy their vote rather, but it makes a difference. They're going to listen more if you are part of the game, you're showing up, you're talking, you're educating them, and you're helping support them. So I believe in advocacy and have since 2 or 3 years after residency, and I have been a leader in developing advocacy. I have been told by pushing the principles, some of which I'll share here tonight, that I've totally transformed well over 100 different anesthesiologists' professional life. So what I say works, and I want everybody who's listening to this to take it to heart that there's a lot more to being a comprehensive professional citizen in whatever profession you join than just doing your daily work.
But Jeff, let me interrupt you. Isn't it just good enough just to go to work and do a good job and go home every day?
Unfortunately, it's not, because the people who don't have your best interest at heart or quality of care and patient safety at heart are showing up at the state capitals and our nation's capital to work against you and providing great care to your patients. Whether you're talking about payment bills for everybody, safety rules, scope of practice, that's where these things are all decided. And so if you are a knowledgeable practitioner in your field, it's your responsibility to make sure that the lawyers and real estate workers and all the other different professions that are among the politicians to show up and educate them. It does not work, Dr. Scott, to just go to the office and do good work. That's basic entry level for any physician or dentist or lawyer.
Well, what about people that have families and kids and let the other guy do it?
Yeah, it's tough. My kids enjoyed me being there in spite of me probably putting in more voluntary hours for organized medicine than anybody else in the state of Alabama for a number of years. I have still found time to coach their little league teams and show up at their games. They would tell any of you today. As a matter of fact, John, they wanted to get up and talk at the House of Delegates when I was president. They were appalled that there were people in the ASA House of Delegates who hadn't contributed to the PAC. My son texted me while I was actually on the dais standing before a few thousand people. He said, "Dad, can I go to the microphone and explain to these people why they're being leeches? They are expecting everybody else to pay for the advocacy, and they show up at a leadership meeting and call themselves a leader." I thought it was pretty funny. But now you've got to do it. It can be done in a balanced fashion. And my children thank me regularly for setting an outstanding example of professional citizenship.
We'll segue into a minute of being what it was like to being the president of the American Society of Anesthesiology. You brought it while you were on the dais, so tell us a little bit about this.
Oh, it was, it's a 4-year commitment. First, you're on the you're on the administrative council in some capacity, usually before you run for the top office. So it's you get elected as first vice president, president-elect, then president, and then immediate past president. So it's 4 years. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of time. Most people are later in their career, while 80% of anesthesiologists are in private practice and 20% are in academics. If you look at the leadership, committee chairs, committee involvement in the ASA, it's an exact flip. 80% are in academics because they can get time off, and the private practice people dwindle down to 20%. So most people in private practice aren't doing it. It takes a lot of time, effort, and commitment. But I got frustrated when I saw everything from payment policy. And when I took over as president of the Alabama Society, we were the lowest paid state in the country, and nobody even knew it. Everybody was sort of fat, dumb, and happy and didn't know how bad things were. So I wanted to dig in and understand how anesthesiology services were paid and how we could change the paradigm. So we did that. But in terms of what it was like being an ASA officer, it was tough. It was a lot of hours, meetings every day, Zoom conferences every day. I can give you an example. The year that I was president of the ASA, first of all, I was also the first president in the 100-plus year history of the ASA to work full-time all the way through, including my president's year. So I say it was hard work. It was hard work, but I loved it when some joker at some city that I was speaking in would make some comment like, "Oh, you're all involved in all this political stuff. You haven't probably darkened the door of an OR in 10 years." And I could say, "I bet I've darkened more doors to ORs and had more call than you in the last week. And I'm still doing all this." So by serving in the way that I did, I pretty much undermined a lot of people making excuses for not helping. So it's busy. I was on the tip of the sphere for out-of-network billing and payment. Many of you in med school wouldn't know what that's about probably, but it's probably the most complicated advocacy issue that I have ever seen, and that several of my peers, including the chairman of the Texas Medical Board, Sharif Zafran, would say as well. And we were given, I debated national level economists and people from the White House, at the Brookings Institute in Washington, D.C., spoke in many different countries. To do what I did, the only weekend that I would be at home, and at the time I was chairman of a department in Waco, Texas, the only weekend I was home, I was in-house cardiac and trauma call myself. The other weekends I was in another state or another country speaking. So it was very exciting, very grueling, very tiring, but extremely rewarding. Extremely rewarding.
Well, good. Do me a favor now. Let's just talk about, I'm going to digress if you don't mind. Tell us a little bit about medical school, some of the challenges, hardships you went through, and how you were able to deal with it and overcome them.
Yeah, I try to be understanding of the people who do have hard times. We're all wired differently. I'm very grateful that God gave me a more than my fair share of healthy coping mechanisms and stamina. Realized that I was on my own at age 18 and I didn't really have any financial support. I still was blessed to be able to get into med school and was waiting tables every chance I could to help pay for things. But somehow I made it through. I was also one of two people at the Medical College of Georgia that year that was not from the state of Georgia, with about a third of the class all having gone to University of Georgia together. So I knew nobody when I showed up. So having social connections definitely helps in med school. My social connections were the people that I worked with at a fine restaurant in Augusta named Calvert's. So it was a different way of balancing things for me. I found the first 2 years of medical school horrible. I don't sit well. I have a hard time reading for a long period of time, probably have undiagnosed attention deficit disorder, not hyperactivity, but studying for a long time for me was agonizing. I loved once we got into the third and fourth year. It's so much more fun when you're treating patients and you're learning and applying the information that you learned in your first 2 years. So I didn't enjoy the first years. I struggled probably emotionally a little bit, just because I didn't know that many people. But for me, it was just get through. I embraced what I heard somebody else say: C equals MD. I didn't graduate with a C average, thank goodness. But you just got to get by. You gotta make it. Do the best that you can, and get. I think I started embracing even more than I did at a younger age, trying to work out. I know Dr. Scott is also a big physical fitness buff, but I went directly from the lecture hall to the gym every day to burn off a little bit of stress and get reinvigorated before studying all night. So I think that's important. Getting enough sleep is important, although I did more all-nighters than I wish that I had in my life. I didn't learn about the value of sleeping until about 2015 when I was an ASA officer and the article about amyloid beta came out. And I thought, well, geez, I've been kind of neglecting taking care of myself. You got to sleep to get rid of amyloid beta in your brain. So sleep, exercise, have friends, socialize a little bit, eat healthy, take care of yourself, and you'll make it through medical school.
All right, now switch over a little bit to the residency. Tools of wisdom you want to add, give. And remember, this is just anesthesia residents. This is residents from all specialty.
Yep. So when I was an ASA officer, I was traveling around quite a bit. It was interesting how I felt like God put people in my path that I was supposed to talk to. I ended up in taxi cabs with people sharing a ride. And I was finding out, I remember distinctly one young lady was doing emergency medicine interviews in the same city that I was speaking in. And I had multiple experiences talking to residents. So some of the points that I make in my professional citizenship talks and things that I embraced all along and things that my mentors taught me. And when I was traveling and speaking in academic departments, I had multiple faculty members come up to me by the mid-teens, and it hasn't gotten any better, telling me how complaining the residents were. They thought they were worked too hard, and this was after, they made things a lot easier when they applied the 90-hour rule. People who think it's hard with that don't know what hard is. I think it's horrible that I heard at least one anesthesia residency that they made it basically not illegal because it's not law, but not approved behavior for an attending to ask a question in the OR. You had to give 24 hours notice so it wasn't so fear causing and so intimidating. I'm going to share a story with you. You may not like it, but it's a story of in the OR in Waco when the OR nurse came up, the OR lead nurse, Shannon, came up to me and said, Dr. Plagenhoef, there's a group of about 10 pre-med students from Baylor University here. I told them all about who you are and that you talked to them. I said, well, Shannon, I got 2 surgeons waiting. I got to start these cases, park them in the corner somewhere, and I'll come talk to them. So, and I had already spoken to the pre-med society at Baylor, but I didn't know any of these kids. I guess they weren't there. So I thought to myself, how can I impact them in just 2 to 3 minutes? Because that's all I really had. So there they are. They're standing there, open-eyed or open-eared. And I said, I'm going to tell you guys something, and it's going to upset some of you. If it does, I've achieved my goal because you needed to hear it. If it doesn't, you may not needed to hear it, but just listen. So first of all, my kids are your age. My kids tell me they're embarrassed all the time of their peers for how soft they are. I said I didn't raise snowflakes and buttercups and didn't raise whiners and complainers. I raised people that would do their fair share. And I've been a chairman at 3 different places, and I'm an officer in the National Society, president of a state society. I've hired a lot of people. I've had to pardon people. And if you'll show up, work hard, and do more than your fair share, you'll be successful. But if you want to be one of the people that complains to your attendings that you're taking too much call or calls too hard or call interfered with crate training your new puppy, real story, call interfered with your relationship because Sunday mornings were your special time and it wasn't to go to church according to the attending, the stories that I heard like that. If that's the way you're wired, you really should consider being a business major or something like that. Medicine is tough. People have to take call. There are stressful situations. Your best learning moments are when your attending's chewing your butt, and you shouldn't cry about that. You shouldn't go and complain to the chairman, or you shouldn't cry to your parents about it. Toughen up, because medicine does require strength, stamina, endurance, durability, and that sort of thing. It's definitely not for everybody. I say that to encourage you, not to condemn you. You've got to work hard. If you'll show up and do a little more than your fair share, you'll beat 90% of the young competition today. It is the truth. Every leader John Scott's age and my age will tell you that. Work hard, do a little more than your fair share, contribute. Don't just warm chairs if you're on committees. You should be involved in your hospital. My group in Dothan, Alabama, we had the largest collection of ex-UAB chief residents in the country, and UAB is a top 10 anesthesia program out of about 130 or 40. You had to serve on at least one hospital committee, and most of us served on 2 or 3. We pretty much ran the hospital, but it was because we taught professional citizenship. We taught leadership, both in the hospital and within the group, and even in the community. You were expected to be involved in the community. We changed the culture of the whole hospital by creating a successful culture within our group. We became known as the most successful recruiting group out of a medical community of about 300 physicians at a 400-bed hospital. And it was all because we set the expectation when we interviewed. If you interviewed with us and you had a significant other, they had to come with you. We told everybody, look, you're going to be involved in advocacy. You will contribute to the state and national PAC. You'll show up to work on time. You'll do your fair share. We set the expectation early. We monitored for compliance. We remediated where we needed to. And in my 23 years in that group, we only had to fire one person because we set the expectation. If every group has solid leadership and sets expectations, it'll pull along the people who don't naturally have the ability or desire to do what's right. So it's possible to be very, very successful if you just try.
That is awesome. Jeff, I want to, again, kind of switch subjects. We're going to run out of time. One of the things I really want to stress at the very end is mental health. Today, more than ever, the stress leads to burnout. Burnout can lead to suicide. What do you want to tell these students and residents about this, and tie it into, if something bad happens, what do you do about it? As far as, who do you go to? Who is somebody you can rely on that's not going to judge you?
Right. Very, very good question, and it's super important. So yeah, it was while I was an officer that burnout became, just pre-COVID. Burnout was already becoming an issue. I joke a little bit. A close friend of mine, he's the executive director of the Alabama Society, and he bought me and my wife this big book on burnout. My wife, Debbie, who's also an anesthesiologist, read it, and people would ask me if I'm not burned out. And I'd say, honestly, guys, I don't know. I can't find time to read the book. Little bit true. Again, I'm fortunate in that I know I was made to work, and I really like stress. My best performances are when my back's against the wall. But know that I almost went into I almost went down the track of getting my PhD in clinical psychology. And then once in medicine, another hardship that I had happen was in residency. I went from running 6 miles a day to crawling to get to the bathroom in 6 weeks. I got hit with an autoimmune enthesopathy that was like Reiter's syndrome, but I didn't have uveitis or urethritis. I just had the enthesopathy, and was on 60 of prednisone a day for a while, worked on crutches for about 2 weeks, only missed one day of work when my wife hid my keys, and I told her she had better not do that again. But even through that, I was working hard and I learned a lot. But with my psych background, or just a natural lean towards it, I'm very sensitive about telling people the importance of seeking counseling if you need it. Again, a mentor taught me that, Ralph Fillmore again. He had been part of at that time, in 1990, the largest single specialty PC in the world was the Anesthesia Services Medical Group in San Diego. It was only 180 physicians, but they learned a lot about a lot of things. And they said, first of all, if you've got major problems and you don't get them addressed by 50, there's not a whole lot of chance that you're going to get better. And if a problem comes up, seek counseling. If your marriage or your significant relationship, if you're not in marriage, is struggling, seek counseling. It helps. I've been divorced. That was a very difficult thing to go through. I went to 2 faith-based and 2 non-faith-based counselors and said, I stand before you naked. Give me all the criticism you can. I want to learn. I want to make anything I can better. No, I would say the majority of people do not have really good self-analytics and introspection, and it really helps to get a objective, unbiased, third-party opinion. Be careful about using friends as your counselor. It's okay to talk to friends. I've been burned by sharing things more than I've been helped, so I'm not a good one to talk to about that. But some people trust their friends and get better talking to them. But professional counselors are well worth the time and money. If you have a bad outcome, it's really important to realize that one reason you want to be I always say there's no such thing as a good anesthesiologist that's not anal compulsive. You've got to be, I think, in pretty much every aspect of medical and dental practice, have some degree of anal compulsiveness, not the disorder, but you've got to try to do your best. And it's important to do your best just because that's the moral and ethical thing to do. But you also don't want bad things to happen. If something bad happens and you lose a patient, like, of course, in anesthesiology at a major trauma center, I've lost patients. But I can say that I'm blessed that I never lost a patient and then felt guilty because I knew I did something major wrong. It's easy to make mistakes, but if you're dotting your I's and crossing your T's all the time and really putting your best effort into it, it's important to not blame yourself when things don't go right. We're dealing with human beings. Bad things will happen. It will make you feel horrible, especially children. And it takes professional help there. So I would go right to your chief of staff and that the leadership of the hospital, don't hide it. Talk to people, go to the leader of your group, seek counseling, go to your pastor, preacher, rabbi, wherever you go. And I didn't include that, by the way. I think that it's very common in college and professional school for children or for young people, including me, to kind of push faith aside because there's not time. If I had to do one thing different, I would have been better about attending church in my case, and getting involved in a small group or Sunday school, whatever you want to call it. Whatever your faith is, if you have that, that can be a very important refuge in times of trouble, and just when you're getting worn out, you can get recharged. So I'm kind of bouncing from topic to topic, I know, but yeah, counseling's king, and seeking help. Don't just hold up at home and try to weather the storm yourself. That is not a good approach.
Jeff, thank you. And thank you again for all your time tonight. Thank you for your mentorship, your friendship, your leadership. The society appreciates you. The medical students and residents will appreciate you. I'd like to have you on in the future. I hope you will. I appreciate all you do. Is there anything you'd like to say in closing?
I believe in mentorship. I want to help as many people as I can. Every time I've spoken to groups of residents, I've offered my personal cell number and email address. If you've got specific questions, I doubt I'm going to get bombarded. I feel comfortable giving you my phone number. It's 334-790-9648. And my first name's Jeff, last name is Plagenhoef. Put it in your contacts. Send me a message. Tell me. Let me know that you listen to me on this podcast, and I'd be happy to try to help you if there's anything I can help you with.
That's wonderful. Thank you. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. Again, this is the Influent Network. Dr. John Scott coming with you beyond the white coat. See you next time. Thank you all. Have a good evening.